Hey guys, Professor Bill of Comic Book University, and in this week's Spotlight and Story, we're going all out. We're going to be talking about the first appearances of Beta Ray Bill, aka Beta Ray Thor. All right, so we're going way back in the Mighty Thor, issue number 337 through 340. These four comic books, they started the first one November of 1983. And yes, this is 337. This is the first appearance of Beta Ray Thor. It's not that expensive depending on where you're going to get. I mean, if you hunt, you can find it on the cheap. Go and grab it and try and get Mr. Walter Simonson to sign it, because I'm just saying. All right, so check this out, man. We're going in the Wayback Machine, and there's going to be a whole bunch of first appearances here. In fact, there's also the first appearance of Lorelei, that's the Enchantress's sister, and of course Scuttlebutt, the amazing Scuttlebutt. That's the ship that Beta Ray Thor was driving. So let's get into this, guys. On writing and pencils and ink, Sir Walter Simonson. No, he hasn't been knighted, and that shows the failing of the British Empire for them not knighting this man. I can't emphasize this enough. This has been given so many awards, this comic book, man. This comic book run. This is considered the greatest run in all of history. I know a lot of people are going to point to Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America. You'll point to anything that Grant Morrison has done, or there's so much out there. But dude, this is the one. More people have given a claim to this than anybody else. Anybody. So, colors, George Rossos. Letters, John Workman, or John Workman Jr., actually. Editing is Mark Grunwald, and Jim Shooter is the editor-in-chief. Like Walter Simonson, though, man, he does everything else in this comic book. He even does the front covers. Later on, you'll get Mr. Buscema joining on art, but that's way later in the series. For now, this is all Walter Simonson, and my God, man, I can't explain just how good this is without actually telling you how good this is. So first, we're going to take a look at this front cover. I want you to look at this front cover, okay? And you see that is the messed up part of the original logo for Thor, all right? Thor. I mean, this has been the logo for Thor forever. And Beta Ray Thor just literally, boom, just smashes right through this darn thing. And from this point on, or from the next issue on, we're going to get a brand new logo that sticks with us for a very long time. So we're going to start off with Doom. What does this mean? Well, we don't actually know. We don't know for a while, for about a year, in fact. Doom. Every issue, this issue is called Doom. The title of this issue. We just see some cosmic being in the ethos. And he's got this giant iron tongs, and he's holding some mystical metal, and he's got this giant hammer and this giant flaming forge and this ridiculously huge anvil, and he's just hitting it every single time he hits it. Doom! That's what happened. That's the noise, and it reverberates all throughout the cosmos. Like, this is a major impact of something that we're going to wind up seeing at some point. And I mean, the explosion, like the art is insane, but even the text boxes, you see them just kind of flying all over the place in many ways. It's crazy. You can tell that something amazing is happening here, and you just see the cosmic entity, this being, just doom every time that he hits this thing, and it's sick. It's sick. And this is a running theme throughout this first year of Walter Simonson on this comic, man. So we go to Chicago. That's where Thor is headquartered. He's actually as Donald Blake right now. He's just hanging out, and he's contemplating the greater cosmic scheme of things. And he's just like, man, I do love being Thor. I love soaring, but at the same time, I also love just being able to get out and just be Dr. Donald Blake, man, and just chill. It's a great thing. And all of a sudden he gets hit by a frisbee. He's like, I'm being attacked. And he pulls out his cane. He's getting ready to tap it once on the ground and turn to Thor and kick some serious booty. But it's just a frisbee. There's no frisbee man yet. But there's Kite Man off in the corner. I'm just joking. That's a completely different comic book publisher. But he's just like, oh, it's just some kids on a frisbee. The guy's like, I'm really sorry. He's got a really bad aim. It's like, oh, no worries. No harm, no foul. And these two guys come up and they muscle him and they grab him and they make sure that he can't get a firm grip on his cane to actually smack the ground. And they're like, oh, let us make sure, because you're a crippled old dude. Let me help you into the car. So they separate him from his cane and they stick him in the back of this car. They throw the cane in also at the behest of the guy driving. But then these two guys, these big goons, they don't even bother getting in the car also. It's just Donald Blake and the driver. Turns out the driver is Nick Fury. Nick Fury seems to know that he's Thor. That's interesting. And like literally he's dropping all these, I know you're Thor. So the car turns into like a Lola and like they fly off, and no, that's not a comment on a song from way back in the day. No, it's more of a Agent Coulson kind of song. It's not a Lou Reed thing. It's an Agent Coulson thing. All right. The car flies. It's a flying car. So Coulson doesn't have carte blanche on that. So they fly up to the helicarrier, one of the helicarriers, and Thor's just chilling out. And he's like, yeah, man, this is cool, dude. So, like, what do you got me here for? It's like, listen, there's some great cosmic threat going on, all right? I know I'm saying cosmic a lot, but get used to it, all right? So there's some super huge threat going on. We're just, scouting around in the sky with our telescopes and, our satellites. And all of a sudden we see this thing coming at us light years away. It's a ship. It's coming out of this huge supernova-looking thing. It's like, all right, well, I guess you're assuming that I have to go out there and try and stop it, divert it, because it's on a collision course with Earth. It's like, yeah, could you, please? So he's like, sure. So he flies off into space. We're going to get right into the action, but we're going to lead into it a little bit, because you see, we got a bunch of people hanging out. You got Sif talking to Baldur the Brave, and we see that Baldur the Brave has pure white hair at this point, and he's a little rotund at this point. He's nowhere near Volstagg level, but he's got the Volstagg starter kit. Let's just put it that way. And it's just the Asgardian dismay. It's like if the Asgardians aren't at war, they're not feeling themselves. Except Volstagg. As long as there's food, he's feeling himself. But it seems that Sif is upset because there's no wars to fight, and Baldur is upset because he's fought too many wars, and he's back from the dead recently, and yeah, he was actually back from Niflheim, from hell, specifically, one hockey stick, Hel. He's just not feeling it. He's not feeling it. He just doesn't want to really talk with anybody. He just kind of wants to chill, So back to Thor. He gets right into the action. He's out there. He's like, I'm right here with the ship. What's up? And all of a sudden the ship just shoots right past him. It's like, what? I better redouble my efforts and catch up to this thing. And he starts flying. So he starts catching up to this thing. No, he doesn't have to breathe in space. I know it's weird. Or at least he can hold his breath forever. Thor is a god. All right? Thor is a god. And when Walt Simonson is writing Thor, Hulk isn't really that big of a threat to Thor. Let's just put it that way. All right? He's not the match for Thor. I know it's going to turn a lot of people off, but you got to understand where he's coming from. He's coming from the same place that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby came from. Thor is a god. Hulk is a mortal. Yes, Hulk gets stronger, but he's not a god. So, this big ship, and it's got huge artillery cannons on it. And it's laden with heavy firepower. He's like, this looks like a warship. Let me go and catch up to this thing. Well, now he looks like a threat, because the ship is sequencing, it's checking out. It's like, okay, this thing that's following us, while it has a different shape in some ways, it's registering the same scent, so to speak, as the demons that we were just escaping from. This ship is named Scuttlebutt. First appearance. And it is the lead ship. It's got some distance, some heading on. Basically, it's the point ship, all right? It's flying point. This armada of ships is behind it, but they're not really fit for war, not nearly the same way Scuttlebutt is. It's got all of these creatures called Corbinites in stasis behind it, and they're just making their way. So This ship, Scuttlebutt, is the lead ship. It is the most powerful ship, and if anything gets in its way, or if anything looks like a threat, it's going to obliterate that threat so these other ships can just pass peacefully. You see, some huge thing happened. Their star, basically their galaxy, therefore their star, or their main star that they were in, the center star, it seems to have gone supernova in some way. The whole galaxy was dying a heat death, and it started to explode, and demons started to escape from it. So the people had to do several things in order to get away. One of them was to get all these ships together, finish building a whole bunch of other ones, increase the armaments on this one ship, Scuttlebutt. It's got an AI, so it's handling itself. It thinks for itself, for herself. And they this ship is flying ahead, so it can waste anything in its path. And the Corbinites, all these people from this planet, are these people. These are actually noble people. They lived in the stars and everything. They're all in cryosleep and all these other ships behind because there's not enough food for them to stay awake the entire time. So they're leaving it to Scuttlebutt and these other ships to find a new habitable location to stay in. So there seems to be only one passenger on the ship. We're not quite there yet. There's only one passenger. He's also in cryosleep in this chrysalis, and that is, in fact, Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray, yes, not Alpha Ray. We'll get to that one day, but not today. You go look that up on your own if you choose. But Beta Ray Bill, he is the champion of the people, and he was given these amazing cybernetics and these biofuels to make him unrecognizable, but ridiculously powerful. And he is the ultimate deterrent for messing with Scuttlebutt. So Scuttlebutt decides to fire off a shot at Thor, hits him, and he's like, yo, zounds. It's not actually what he says this time, but you get the point. He's like, oh, no, you just did not. So he starts flying forward. Oh, man, I can't believe you just did that. So the ship's like, oh, this guy's a lot tougher than those demons that we faced before. So it starts opening up fire, just opens up a volley. Thor's like, I ain't having this. So he throws his hammer, boom, takes out the side of the ship, flies inside, and as soon as he gets inside, it starts healing. The ship itself starts healing, and it seals that breach, that hull breach. So Thor's inside, he sees this big crystal. He's like, what's going on here, man? What's going on? And Scuttlebutt's just like, okay, you got past the armament. Let's see if you can get past the ultimate defense. So his big hand just comes out and grabs his face, man. It's like a face hugger, except this ain't no hug, and he ain't trying to impregnate him. It's about to whoop his butt. So we get to see a whole bunch of things. We get to see the introduction of Lorelei and Loki. He's not necessarily banished, but he is away. The Asgardians are doing this illegal troll hunt. They don't care. What are you going to do? So back to Thor, because that's the important stuff, and Beta Ray Thor. And we just see this giant beast of a dude just come out, and he's like, yeah, you're a particularly big demon, but I'm going to take you down. And through some measure, he does. He's able to get the hammer away from Thor. He recognizes that hammer is a huge threat. He's like, with that hammer, I can't beat this guy. But without the hammer, I've got a chance. And he does. He's actually able to keep Thor away from the hammer. Now, mind you, this is kind of important. The idea of Thor being away from the hammer for 60 seconds or longer reverts him back to Dr. Donald Blake. But Odin's not stupid. That's not going to happen in the middle of space. Yes, that does happen under Jim Starlin and a couple other people, under Walt Simonson, that doesn't happen. Mind you, a lot of people say, who can beat who? Well, it depends on who's writing the character. And that's the most important part to remember. Here, Walt Simonson is writing Thor, and he's of the opinion, and I love this opinion, why would Odin allow Thor to die? Because if Blake dies, Thor dies. That's the way it works. So while he's outside of Earth's atmosphere, if he's away from the hammer for a while, it's not a big deal. It's once he gets back to the atmosphere, that's when you have to worry about it. So these two are going at it, and they're wrecking the ship. They're wrecking everything, man. and they wind up getting they're like neck and neck with each other. But at one point, Beta Ray Thor is able to knock out Thor. Why? Because they get close enough to Earth that the enchantment comes back into place. Thor's like, oh crap, he reverts form. Beta Ray Bill doesn't understand what's going on. He's like, what is this? Whatever. Boom. He changed shape, but this shape seems ill-suited for combat. That's interesting. So he just clocks him really quick. Hey, you take advantage of everything. These are your people's lives, man. She's like, okay, this was a pretty tough guy. I kind of want that weapon that he was just using. So he starts digging and looking for that hammer. Meanwhile, the stasis shield comes around him. He's like, whoa, what's going on? They're about to crash land on Earth. So he's like, oh yeah, stasis shield. And it winds up getting Donald Blake also. Yay. So he's like, I'll deal with this guy later. In the meantime, where's this darn hammer that he was just using? Where's this tool, this weapon he was just using? And he's pulling things apart. He's like, it fell here. All this is this big splinter, this big piece of wood. What is this? He's like, this is nothing, man. He goes and like smacks it. But the second he smacks it, all of a sudden he changes. He changes into Beta Ray Thor. Oh yeah, that's right. Now, I want it to be understood. Walter Simonson's run goes from issue number 337 to 383. All right? This is, about a 5-year run that he's on this comic book. And he finished in 383, and 383. 7 issues later, in 390, that's the first time that Captain America ever picks up the hammer. Okay? So, understand, yes, Captain America has lifted Thor's hammer more times than anybody else has for the most part. But Beta Ray Bill was the first person to lift up that hammer. No one from the 60s through these 80s has ever lifted Thor's hammer before. No one has ever been worthy. That's never been a question. It's 7 issues after, I think it was DeFalco who did those comic books, who wrote those comic books. He's like, I'm going to make Captain America worthy also, and thank you, Tom DeFalco. After that, everybody seems to be worthy, which is really annoying. But yeah, I'm good with those 2 being worthy. Nobody, literally, for me, I don't think anybody else should be worthy of the hammer. Done and done. But, hey, I'm not writing Thor yet. In the meantime, the first person to have ever lifted Thor's hammer, yes, like 5 years before Captain America did, was Beta Ray Thor. So you have to understand how big of a deal this was for this young Professor Bill, not yet a professor, but a professor in training. Comic book university, just a gleam in his eye, and I'm picking up this comic book just going, Dad? Because like something's wrong. Something's wrong. You could feel that this was a big deal. This was a huge deal. So he grabs this hammer. He's just like, dude, they're like these, S.H.I.E.L.D. is sending some tankers after him. He's like, what is this? Bam! He just throws the hammer. How do you like me now? And he's like, oh, hey, the hammer returns. It's a miracle. Yes! Nothing can defeat me with this hammer. I'm taking out everybody and their mothers, So he's as tough as can be. All of a sudden, Odin appears. So there's 2 one-eyed beings around. There's Nick Fury over here and Odin over there. Odin is just like, my son, I have need for you. Come. I'm taking you now. Poof, and just takes him. But he takes Beta Ray Thor because he's kind of looking for the power of Mjolnir. It's the easiest thing to lock onto, man. Like, what else? Why would he bother locking onto anything else? So the All-Seeing seems to have missed something. Anyway, Donald Blake wakes up, and Nick Fury's right there. He's like, partner, I think he stole your hammer. He's like, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? No, really, like, that really happens. Father, why have you forsaken me? It's right out of the Bible, dude, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Next issue 389, more doom as the foreshadowing. Oh God, when you guys find out what that is, it's sick. Let's just say it's the twilight of the gods finally coming to bear. So more of all of this craziness, and Beta Ray Thor is walking around. He's grabbing people. He's like, what am I doing here? What's going on? And he's like, Odin's like, listen, I noticed once I caught you over here that you're not actually my son. Listen, where's my son? And if you say you killed him, we can have words, bud. We're going to have words, and not a single voice applicature will be spoken. All right? Just as long as we're clear. So he's like, what? I will knock you out. So he throws the hammer. Wham! He's going to try and knock out Odin with Mjolnir. Better I Thor, you're so cute. Anyway, so he throws the hammer, and Odin's just, yeah, come, Mjolnir. Come. You don't want to be doing, no, you don't. You're so cute. Yeah, that guy right up there on the wall. You can see him, right? There she is. So anyway, right next to my Terminator and hat and all this other stuff. So anyway, the masks. So he's like, yeah, listen, man, I'm going to ask you to be cool, because if you're not going to be cool, I'm going to knock you clean out. So again, where's my son? I beat him in fair combat, and I took that weapon. That's mine. I won it in combat. So he's like, ugh, stasis. So it's like, dude, stasis again. So Donald Blake gets summoned, but when he comes to Asgard, of course, he's in Thor form. He's like, boop, you're Thor. So they go up to, what the heck is the name of this seat? I'm really good with these Nordic names, but not this one. Hlidsklaf. Yeah. Hlidsklaf. Anyway, it's the high seat. All right. This is in the regular mythology also. This isn't something that Walter Simonson made up. This is actually the throne of Odin, the main throne of Odin, which sits at the edge of the universe so he can see over everything. It's where his all-seeing eye can quite literally see everything. Baldur can see everything because he's on the Rainbow Bridge and whatever, man. But this seat allows him to have basically the sight of, did I say Baldur? I meant, for crying out loud. Heimdall. Thank you. Everybody's yelling at the computer. It's Heimdall, Bell! So, yes, Heimdall. He has the sight of Heimdall when he's on this seat. Only when he's on this seat. So, he goes up there and he brings Thor and Beta Ray Thor up top. He's like, come, let me show you something. Meanwhile, Sif is walking around and she's trying to get over Thor. She's like, man, I don't want to be on Earth anymore. And Thor's spending too much time with frickin'... these mortals and whatnot, but, and Lady Jane Foster, and like, I'm Sif, man. I'm the toughest woman in the world. In the 9 realms, I'll knock anybody out. I'll knock out Thor. And she has. And she's like, this is nonsense. Why am I sitting here fiending over this guy? He's not interested in me. This is stupid. So she's walking around. She sees Thor kissing Lorelei. So she goes over and just a quick swat. And she knocks them both on their butts. One hit knocks them both on their butts. Well, it turns out this wasn't really Thor. It was Loki. But that was definitely Lorelei. Loki's just clowning around, man. He's just being a clown. So here's where that origin that I told you about, Scuttlebutt and Beta Ray Thor and all that stuff shows up. And they're just, having this conversation. I already told you all that stuff. So... Odin is like, listen, you both have a claim on this hammer, on Mjolnir. I created it for my son, all right? I got the dwarves to make it, and then I enchanted it, and, like, you have no idea how much of my Odin power I put into this. Yes, Jason Aaron would come along later, and he would change it up and say it was actually the Tempest itself, the mother of storms that was put in there. Whatevs, man, whatevs. But in this particular regard, it's this. It's the Odin power, the Odin force. So he's just like, listen, you both have a claim to this, but here's what's going to happen. I'm going to send you guys to Scariem. This is not something I've ever seen in mythology before, and the only appearance of Scariem is in this issue of this comic book in this run. That's it. It's just this issue. This is the first and only appearance in issue number 338 of Scariem. This is just some realm. It's basically like Mustafar, okay? Think about Star Wars, that ridiculously violent planet, except this one is so violent, you can't even have mining colonies on it. Yeah, it's that bad. Force field tech doesn't even work on it. It's kind of like a cross between Mustafar and Dune, all right? So, Arrakis. So, Odin sends him there. It's like, you guys are going to fight to the death. Whoever survives, you get the hammer. So they do fight. And not quite to the death, but they fight. And it's a pretty rough fight. Real quick interlude, because this is kind of important. Volstagg and Balder are walking around. And all of a sudden, this cat, Agnar, walks around. Agnar, son of Hrothgar. He's one of the Vanir. He comes from Vanaheim. Now, in actual Norse mythology, you have Asgard, Vanaheim, and Alfheim. These three, Alfheim is the realm of the elves. Asgard is the realm of the Aesir, the gods. And these three realms, these three planets, basically, these three realms are in the top tier of the world tree. In the middle is Midgard, right in the middle. And then you have, everything else as it is. Jotunheim is there. I think Nidlelir is there. I forget. But Niflheim is all the way on the bottom. So is Svartalfheim and Muspelheim. Yeah, I believe those are the three on the lower tier. So these are the 9 realms. And of course, now later on with Neil Gaiman's character of Angela, got her up there on the wall, you got the 10th realm, which is heaven. In the meantime, right now, there's only the 9 realms. And the Vanir are basically like the Asgardians, but according to the Norse mythology, which I'm positive that's exactly what Walt Simonson is looking for here, the Vanir and the Aesir have they've kind of brokered a peace because they've done some trades, and the Norse definitely won in those trades. You know what I'm saying? But they've traded people. So they can, back and forth parlay and they can keep a peace. But the Vanir were the original inhabitants of these realms. And then the Aesir came afterwards and they took over. And the Vanir weren't particularly happy with that, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We got Thor, So anyway, this guy Agnar comes along and he's like, yeah, I heard that Balder the Brave is the toughest. This is basically the story of Wild Bill Hickok. You know what I'm saying? I forget the name of the little punk who came along afterwards because I don't care to remember his name. But this little punk came along to Wild Bill Hickok and said, if I kill you, then I'll be you've done all this work, to be the most feared gunman in all of the Wild West. But if I kill you, then I've done all of your work also. Well, that's actually stupid, but sure. So he shoots him in the back. You know what I'm saying? He shoots him in the back, and now he's however you've read the story, or if you've seen it on TV or whatever. The stories I first read was he shot him in the back, and there's a whole bunch of different that's not the story. Anyway, so he wound up having to live with that forever. That people were constantly coming after him. So you're the guy who shot Wild Bill Hickok, huh? Draw. Yeah, he had to live with that for the rest of his life. Well, this guy Agnar, he doesn't get to that point, but he says, I want to fight you, and I want to prove that I'm better than you. Cute, but Balder isn't having it. Now, basically, Volstagg decides to break this dude's foot by stepping on it, and then he hangs him upside down and walks him down to a park, drops him, and sits on him. And he's sitting on him for what seems like days. He's just chatting it up with him. He's like, listen, Balder had this and this, and he's going through the mythology, and he's saying this is what happened, and he had to fight his way out of hell, and he's the only Asgardian who's actually come back to life. That's not in mythology, that's in the comics, but there's a nice blend of those. So what actually happened in hell, we don't actually know. You will know, I'm saying you to the audience, you will know either by reading the stories or waiting for me to do a spotlight on story on that. And I can assure you that is one hell of a story and it will be spotlighted. Okay, so the only other story I've done in this, mind you, so far is the death of the executioner, which is a story that will make me cry any day of the week. And you can say whatever you want about a grown man crying, but dude, I read that comic book, I got enough tears in me to fill up an entire swimming pool. Like, that is a beautiful, beautiful story. Again, Walter Simonson. Okay, so that's basically what happens with poor Agnar, jackass that he is. So, back to Thor and Beta Ray Thor. These two are going at it, and Thor, they're both exhausted, and they're both equally, we get to read what's the inside thoughts of these two, and they both feel like, they can't keep on going, but they do. And Beta Ray Thor feels as though this is it for me, dude. I don't know what else I could do. This is a last minute pitch, last second pitch where Thor is jumping at him. He's like, this guy doesn't tire. Meanwhile, Thor is exhausted. He's like, this guy just doesn't tire. Okay. Boom! And he hits these rocks. He destroys this entire cliff face and sends these little missiles flying at Thor. And just he's like, pow, 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 being pelted by these rocks. And he grabs one of the rocks and he throws it and hits Beta Ray Thor, sends him flying. And he flies down. He's about to land in this pool of lava. Instead, he falls on this loose rock, this loose obsidian plateau that's floating in the freaking lava. So Thor jumps down on top of it also, and they just go at it with just boom, and like the entire world, like Skartheim just kind of like blows up with the amount of power these two are hitting each other with, and just looking at each other and just quick nap, and they fall out. They pass out. They're both equally exhausted. These two are literally the equals of each other. Yet, Beta Ray Thor wakes up first. And that's the end of it. No, he doesn't actually kill him. Instead, he picks him up. He's like, this guy's too honorable. And he explains to Thor later on, because Thor's like, I'm not worthy, I suck, blah, 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 blah. And this is very telling of Thor. And I wish that more people would pay attention to this. And I hope that they are. I hope that, somebody like Jason Aaron is paying attention to these particular lines that are being said by Thor later on when he's talking to Beta Ray Thor, Beta Ray Bill. He's saying, like, I've proved him I'm not worthy. I'm just going to leave him. You take me on there. I'm going to go off about the stars, and I'm just going to explore and just be a bum, basically. I'm not worthy. I'm going to renounce my godhood and my princedom and my heir of the throne. And blah. Shut up, you sissy. Stop being a little sissy. Oh, my God, you little wimp. You lost one fight. Oh, my God. So anyway, he's just like this big sensitive snowflake on Mustafar. So anyway, Beta Ray Thor's like, dude, I know that you're tough and all, but you got to remember that I actually grew up on a planet very like that. So yeah, if we were on some other place, like for instance, if we were on a snow-filled planet or something like that, you probably would have woken up first. But this was my environment, and I don't think Odin could have known that. But either way, yeah, dude, I wound up waking up first because the environment was perfectly situated to me, to my evolutionary standards. That's all. So, so Thor's like, oh, okay, I guess. In the meantime, all of this happens pretty much as a follow-through because Odin brings them both back. And everybody was watching this fight. Almost everybody in Asgard was watching this fight. It was a big freaking deal. Just like, dude, this is wild. So it's like, okay, listen, you're sitting here in the middle of this fight. I don't know what to do at this point. Odin's like, okay, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and try and figure some things out. So he goes to Nidavellir, the realm of the dwarves. This is where Itri, not only in Norse mythology, but in the comic books, where Itri, the dwarf, actually created Mjolnir. So the way that the process worked here and in the original comics, was Itri made this hammer out of the very rare and unbelievably powerful material, metal ore, called Uru. So he created this hammer. While the hammer was being created, Odin blasted it with as much Odin force as he could manage without actually passing out. And that's what gave the enchantment. And then, of course, he also added the enchantment, none may lift this hammer except he who is worthy. So, bada boom. That's what he does, and that's the creation of Mjolnir. And he decides he's going to make another Mjolnir. So he goes to the dwarf, Itri, and he's like, listen, here's the deal. And he goes as the Wanderer. It's one of his many forms in Norse mythology. And if you guys haven't read the Norse mythology, personally, it's not as rich as the Greek mythologies, but I love it. Like, there's way more Greek mythology stories, but I love the Norse mythology stories so much more. And J.R.R. Tolkien agrees with me, just saying. Anyhow, that being said, he goes as the Wanderer, and Itri notices him. He's like, listen, there's this other dwarf. We've got a champion right now, man. He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy, all right? And I don't think that you've got a female champion who could beat him. Like, female champion. He's like, I said female champion. So listen, you want me to make this hammer for you, right? You want me to make this hammer? I'll make this hammer, fool. But here's the deal. Because you gods were always so mean to us and bullied us and stuff like that, the only way I'll make you this hammer is if you send a female who's going to come and fight against our champion. And if our champion wins, well, she gets to be the chattel for this guy. Chattel is just a word that means slave. You become property of this guy. All right? And that's that. So, yeah, win or lose, that's what happens. She's like, okay, yeah, I can manage that. So, as he's coming back, the Lady Sif shows up. It's like, yeah, can I please be the one? He's like, if you want to. This guy sounds pretty tough. But then again, we are Asgardians. I mean, we're the best. It's like, yeah, I need to go and fight somebody, so I'm going to go beat up this dwarf. And she does. This dwarf doesn't stand a chance. And it's ugly too, so ew. This dwarf literally does not stand a chance. A snowball's chance. You dig? Oh, by the way, doom. Yeah, the foreshadowing of what's to come. So, and there's also more foreshadowing because some monster comes out of, what is it, Quebec or Nova Scotia? I think it's Quebec. Does it actually say, yeah, Quebec. Someplace in Quebec, Canada, this monster comes out of the ground. That's going to be a pretty standard thing. And we're gonna find out by the end of the next comic book. Yes, by the end of the next comic book, who this monster actually is. It's pretty famous in Norse mythology. So here, Lady Sif, she just goes out and she just tears this thing up. It's like she doesn't kill it, although she could. Just like, yeah, not worth it. So Airtree shows up, and it's like, oh, man, hey, you did a good job, and I'm so glad that Odin sent you. It's like, whoa, you're not backing up on the deal now, are you? Lady Sif's a little bit upset. She's like, no? These dwarves, Airtree and all that, it's like, no, in fact, we couldn't be happier. The truth of the matter is, and this is why I love the Norse mythology, and I love Walter Simonson for getting it. You know what I'm saying? He gets it. The dwarves, all of the Asgardians, they don't deal in standard, conversation. They deal in riddles and puzzles and different ways of going about things. So the Airtree says to Sif, I'm so glad that Lord Odin decided to send you because you just defeated this bully. This guy's been a bully to all of us because he's a huge dwarf, but you just kicked his butt and you're a woman. So I'm just saying, he just got beat by a girl. So he's not going to bother us for a really long time. Meanwhile, he's still around to help defend us if somebody shows up and gives us a hard time. But, he's not going to be bothering us for years. And that's great. Thank you so much, Lady Sif. We're going to get right on your hammer. Dwarves to the forges! Yeah, I love this. So Lady Sif winds up actually digging on Beta Ray Thor. Now, she's got to get past the looks, because mind you, Beta Ray, although he looks cool to us, okay, to his own people even, they can't look on him. He's their champion, but he's so ugly, they can't even look at him. That's how freaky he is. So these guys, the dwarves, meanwhile, they've got just enough Uru to make this new hammer. And what do you call it? It's made, and Odin casts all his energy into it, and he's like, now, Beta Ray Thor, grab it. Reach your hand into there and grab, listen to what Airtree says. Airtree says, open up that gate and pick it up now. Don't waste any time. Pick it up now. So he opens it up. He's got this glove and just reaches into the forge and pulls it out. And yeah, he's now got this hammer. And Thor is like, oh, dude, so wait, so I can have my hammer? He's like, yes. I actually want you guys, and he's like, so I'm going to call this hammer Stormbreaker, and you still got Mjolnir. So I want you guys to pick up the hammer and cross them. And he does. And boom, this power comes out. And they're like, oh, wait, nothing happened. It's like, no. Something did happen. It's the final gift I'm bestowing on both of you. And the gift is I'm taking something away from you, Thor, and giving it to Beta Ray Thor. You see, as it turns out, Lady Sif has been talking with Beta Ray Thor, and later on she also winds up talking to Scuttlebutt. Scuttlebutt is, again, that sentient ship. And you know what? I think I should actually just get into that right away first. All right? I think I should get right into that first. They just... they just cross the hammers like, boom, we're super tough. Let's go and kick some butt. Let's make a pact. Let's go and stop these demons that are coming after our ships, okay? Because, yeah. So that's when all of a sudden Thor summons Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. So this is the final issue number 340. They go off into this faraway place, and they're trying to protect against the hordes of these demons. And these demons seem to have something in common with the whole Doom, this big entity thing. God, I can't wait to get to that. Lady Sif goes with them because she's like, I'm still hungering for battle. I got a hankering for stabbing demon things. So it's Beta Ray Thor, Thor himself, and Lady Sif on the chariot drawn by Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder, the goats of Thor. And they fly out into space to the Armada itself, and here's this big, gigantic... That's actually the thing that Odin was seeing. He was seeing these demons coming out and going after this Armada of ships. It's like, dude, this is not cool. And it's hardly an Armada. They can barely defend themselves, you know? The fleet, I should just call them. So they go after these things, and Lady Sif stays with Scuttlebutt to fight off these demons while Thor and Beta Ray Thor go into the heart of the matter to try and close this big gate, this big warp, because that's where these demons are coming from, this big dimensional door. So, they go in there, and they are able to stop it eventually. They throw their hammers in, and they make their hammers hit while on the inside. They come back, and the thing does close. Just in time, too, because although Sif and Scuttlebutt are wrecking house on these freaking these demons, they're just more and more keep on showing up. So it gets to the point where this ship is like, there's only one way to stop these things and actually protect the fleet. I'm going to self-destruct. You should probably try and escape now. But Lady Sif is extremely honorable, and she says, if you're going to die, I'm going to die with you. All right? You are my friend now. We fought tooth and nail against these beasts. And of course, if you read the book, you'll see a lot more into that. I'm just giving the brief rundown of this right now. But just as it gets to one, she's like, wait, stop! They seem to be disappearing. And they do. They phase out of existence because, you know, they were stopped by Thor and Beta Ray Thor. So they go back to Odin. And that's when Odin is now going to bestow this final gift. So they cross hammers again. And what he does is he takes away the bane that Thor had, that if he's away from the hammer for 60 seconds or more, then he will turn into Dr. Donald Blake. He took that away. So now Thor doesn't have to worry about being away from his hammer for 60 seconds or so. He is now Thor. Has he learned all of his humility? Not really, in my opinion, because he's still, because he went and started crying. I lost a fight. But that being said, the conversation that Odin had with Beta Ray Thor, he kind of took him as an adopted son. He's like, I have my firstborn son, and then I have kind of my second son here. Odin will later warm up to Loki again. There's always that love-hate relationship there, but for the most part, he takes Beta Ray Thor as his surrogate son in many ways also. Actually says as much, and he gives him the blessing of being able to turn back into his original form. You see, while Lady Sif was hanging out with Scuttlebutt, Scuttlebutt gives a bit of detail that Beta Ray Thor didn't, that Beta Ray Bill didn't give. See, he told about how he became the guardian of his people. What he didn't tell was all the stuff that would make him look a lot cooler than he feels that he is. He had to defeat thousands of his own people in order to win this honor, this dignity of being ostracized from your people from now on. Of getting these cybernetic implants, these bio implants to become as tough as nails, and then some. So this, many people that underwent this process that he survived, everybody else died. So he's the only one who didn't perish while this procedure was undergone on him. So he literally is the ultimate champion of his people, the greatest, the best there could possibly be. But it's an irreversible thing, and he would do it again in a heartbeat because he wants to protect his people. He's a noble but tragic being. And Odin hears Sif explaining this. Sif is explaining this to Odin. He's like, I need a woman's take on this. And she explains all of that. And it's like, wow. So he knows that the best gift that he can give is not just the best gift he can give is Stormbreaker, but the second best gift that he can give, which he also bestows, is tap the hammer once. And I've modified this this lesson that I gave to Thor to become a boon for you, that you turn back into your original form before all of the implants and the biomedical and everything. And he's actually a pretty good looking guy. He's actually a pretty good looking guy. And yeah, is what it is. He still looks like one of his people, though. He's still a Corbinite, all right? But he doesn't have the big equine face and all that. He doesn't look like a horse, you know? Anyhow, that's for the most part the story. So he's just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And he's going to go and hang out with Lady Sif at this point, and they're just going to chill out and all that good stuff. Because Sif wants to hang out with a champion and wants to feel like she's with somebody who's awesome. And they do actually wind up developing a bit of a relationship. In the meantime, back on Earth, we discover, well, we don't discover in this issue. In the next issue, we're going to discover that that big beast that came out of the ground in Quebec is actually going through the sea. It's destroying ships. It's destroying everything around it. It's actually the dragon Fafnir. This is straight out of the Norse mythology. What is that one called? The Ring of... No, the Treasure of Otter. Otter's Surprise. Otter's Ransom. The story is actually called Otter's Ransom. And there's a story of how they got the treasure from the dragon and all that crazy stuff. So, yes, this is the dragon Fafnir, and it's effing huge, man. And Thor's got to fight this in issue 341. Okay, I think that's about it. I think that we've done enough. So these 4 issues, man, first appearance of a lot of beings, and a whole lot is set up here. And it's not overwhelming, but it's amazing. And we're going to start learning more and more about what's going on. And yes, the big doom prophesized thing still ringing throughout the realms, still ringing true. This is an amazing series, and I do believe that I'm eventually going to do spotlights on stories for all of these stories right through, and then put them in a separate playlist because they're worth it. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Links below. Just saying, links below. You should definitely consider getting this stuff in trade form at least. But issue 337, try and get your hands on that. That's so totally worth it. All right, that's it for me, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.